Hey everyone, AJ here from herfitnesssolutions.com. This is the first video in a series of videos that will be in a blog about a diet experiment that I did. I'm going to call it the Conventional Wisdom Diet Experiment. You guys will see why. But before I get into the details of that experiment, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a background of where I was before I did this experiment and what exactly I was doing and the things that I improved with my overall health and fitness. So um, this diet experiment was done a couple of years after I had made a big move, gone back to school, got out of a really long relationship. A lot of change had happened, and with that change, moving across the country, a lot of the sports that I was doing were no longer accessible on such a regular basis. So I had to give a lot of those things up. I think, at this point, I think I was just about to give up motocross completely because I was only able to ride a few times a summer and it just wasn't worth the expense and the hassle. I had taken up mountain biking, so I was just doing that very recreationally. There was, I might go 1 or 2 weekends a month to one of the places where you could actually take the chairlift up and ride down. I do a little bit of cross-country riding in the city on the weekends, but nothing major. And of course in the winter I was still skiing and snowboarding, but it was in Ontario compared to where I'd been in British Columbia, so I could pretty much, it didn't feel like it was exercise. But it was just on such a different level, so they weren't comparable. So stressors from sports and my recreational lifestyle were completely changed. As far as stress with day-to-day life, there's just always things. I would say there was just a shift of the different kinds of stresses. So I wouldn't say that, there was a huge difference in that. As far as going to the gym, that was one thing that was always kind of compromised when I used to do a lot of sports. I wasn't able to really find that time to be consistent with my training. And of course, the sports were breaking down my body at a much faster rate than I could recover. So that didn't help. So for about a year or maybe 2 at this point, I was going to the gym quite consistently. So it was about 3 days a week. I wasn't doing any cardio. I was strictly focusing on rehabilitating my body. So making sure that my movement patterns were good. I was trying to put on some muscle mass. A lot of my work was corrective and very therapeutic. I was working on increasing my strength with some of my bigger lifts, but I wouldn't say that was like the main focus. Like right now, that's my main focus. Back then it was part of it, but I was still way more focused on the therapeutic aspect of training, making sure my body was moving properly. And then of course my nutrition was probably, it tied into my training. So I wasn't on a diet. I wasn't trying to restrict my calories and, really, really lean out. In fact, I was trying to eat maybe just a little bit more than what I needed or just enough to make sure that I could put on some muscle mass. So my time in the gym was effective. I didn't want to be dieting and trying to put on muscle. That probably wouldn't have worked very well. So as far as like the overall strategy that I used for my nutrition, it was paleo. Really, that's what it was. I had so many health issues, like gut issues, and then just food intolerances and just feeling like shit for so long that this was the first time in my life that I was able to really just focus on my nutrition, stick to one thing, and just purely focus on health, getting my gut health improved, dialing in my food sensitivities and making sure that I wasn't, getting off track with that and having setbacks. Just making sure that I was feeling good all the time. So, a good example would have been before I started this, I wasn't really eating wheat that much, but I still would eat it. And when I go to visit my mother and I would handle wheat, I would get like a rash on my arms. That's how sensitive I was. And then about 6 months into completely eliminating wheat, which I had done in the past, but I don't think I had done it this consistently ever before. I just wasn't having any of those reactions. So my gut health was improving. I wasn't noticing weird things like reactions when I was even handling food, because that was something that happened more often than I like to admit. And that was really the approach. There was a bit of an 80-20 rule, but I wasn't really depriving myself of anything. I didn't feel as though I was. So the 80-20 rule was kind of, it was there. I would, of course, treat myself to certain things, but I just didn't really feel like I was ever deprived. So it wasn't like I was like looking forward to my like refeed or anything like that, because number one, I wasn't dieting down really hard, and number two, my nutrition was just, it was easy to sustain because I was feeling so great, and that was worth the trade-off. So that's where I was. I'm going to post some pictures of what I look like, and I'll give you some other details in the summary in the written part of the blog. But I just wanted to give you guys a sense of where I was with my own journey before I just started to do this experiment that I'm going to talk about. All right, that's it for this video.